What's up everyone, and welcome to another Minecraft Bedrock Redstone tutorial. In this video, we're going to be looking at another automated potion brewer. This was requested by Nagato my angel. Thank you so much for leaving a comment, and thank you for requesting. I was a little slow to make this time, but it's because I've been sick. I got the COVID, and I've been out of commission for a couple weeks, but I'm finally feeling better, so let's jump into it. The unique thing about this design is that it just continues to make potions over and over and over until the output is completely filled up. So just depending on how big you make your storage will depend on how many potions it makes. Once it's completely full though, it will stop brewing potions, and then if you take potions out and want it to continue brewing, you just press this button and it will continue brewing again. Basically, this will continue to brew potions until the hopper going into the chest gets potions inside of it, meaning that the chest is full. So once the chest is full and the hopper gets locked in with some potions, it will stop triggering the machine to continue brewing. But until then, it will just continue brewing the ingredients that you select until you have a full chest or a full output full of those potions. And now let's jump into the build tutorial, starting with what you will need to build this thing. Now some of this is a little optional. You can always have less droppers if you're going to have less ingredients, and you can have less chest or more chest if you want more or less potions, totally up to you. You'll also need 22 of some random item that can't be put into a brewing stand. So like sticks or seeds, just something like that. Also the iron block is any solid blocks of your choice. The build area is going to be 4 by 5, and you'll have a double chest in the very first row facing the front of the machine. This is where your finished potions will end up for you to collect them. And you can always add more chests if you want to increase your potion storage. We're going to start off by placing a hopper going into that chest, make sure it's going into that chest, and then place another hopper going into that hopper. Now the hopper that's going into the other hopper, we're going to place a brewing stand on top of. Next up, we're going to jump on top of our brewing stand and place a temporary block on top of the other hopper so that we can place up to 5 droppers facing the brewing stand. I say up to 5 droppers because this is where your ingredients go, and so the most ingredients that you can use in a single potion is 5. But if you know which potion you're going to be brewing, you can use the corresponding number of droppers. So if the potion you're going to be brewing only has 3 ingredients, you can just use 3 droppers. I'll go over what else changes later on in the video if you use less than 5 droppers, but for tutorial's sake, we'll go ahead and use 5 just so that you see the maximum capacity version. So then next up, we're going to jump on top of our brewing stand and we're going to place hoppers facing down up to the number of droppers that you placed. So in this case, we're going to place 5 hoppers going down into the brewing stand. And we'll break out our temporary block, and so now you'll have a bunch of droppers facing into hoppers that are going down into the brewing stand. So then come around to the back, and we're going to place solid blocks, 1 behind this hopper, and then 1 block away from that, and then 2 next to this brewing stand, like so. Now we're going to place a repeater in this little hole in the bottom facing the front of the machine, and then we're going to jump up here and place a comparator facing the back of the machine next to the hopper right here. And then you're going to place your 22 junk items inside of this hopper that the comparator is looking at. And you're going to place those items in the last 4 slots like so. It doesn't matter what denominations you put in each slot, just as long as the first slot is empty and the last 4 slots have at least 1 of your junk item and they total 22. And sorry if that was a little strange, I messed up the video slightly and had to just splice that in there. But then once you get your comparator placed and your items in your hopper, place a redstone torch on the side of that back block, and then place a solid block right there, and then place redstone dust in these 4 positions right here, like so. Now we're going to place a hopper going into the side of this brewing stand. This is where your water bottles are going to be fed into the brewing stand. So place a double chest on top of that hopper. This is where your water bottles will go. And that's it for this side, so this is what you should have. Now come over to the other side and we're going to place a comparator facing the back next to that bottom hopper right there. And then we're going to place a repeater coming out of that comparator on maximum delay facing the back. Then we're going to place a solid block coming out of that repeater. And then we're going to place another solid block next to that comparator. And then 2 redstone dust in this bottom hole right here. And then we're going to place a redstone torch on top of that block. And then we're going to place a solid block on top of that torch with another torch on the side of it. And then we're just going to work our way up so that the torches and blocks will activate all of the droppers. So place a block on top of that torch with a torch on the back, and then a block on top of that torch with another block on the side but on the front, and we're going to continue this pattern all the way up to the top of our droppers. Now if you used less than 5 droppers, this is where it'll be slightly different. You will just simply need less of these torches and blocks. You will only just need enough torches and blocks to activate the droppers. But let me just show you some examples. So if you have less droppers, you will only need enough torches and blocks to activate those droppers. So basically, you will just need either a block or a torch directly behind the topmost dropper. So if you only have 2 ingredients, you don't even need that torch right there. But if you have like 3 ingredients, you'll need to just work your way up so that there's a torch next to the topmost dropper, like so. Or if you have 4 ingredients, you will just simply need to place a block on top of this torch, because the torch will power the block, which will then power that dropper. Or of course, for the full-size version, you will need another torch to send power up, and then another block to receive that power, and then another torch to power the topmost dropper. And so this is what you should end up with. We are now done with the build tutorial. Now all that's left is to load our ingredients, load our water bottles, and then after that I will show you a little bit about how this machine works. So if you're interested in learning more about redstone, stay tuned to the end. Well, I will try to explain exactly how this works. But for now, before we load our ingredients, you need to load one of your base ingredient into the brewing stand, and also your fuel. You'll need your blaze powder, and then load one of the base ingredient. So usually it's nether wart, but depending on what potion you're brewing, just one of whatever the base ingredient is for that potion. And then it's time to load the rest of your ingredients. So I'm going to place item frames on these hoppers right here, just so that we can visualize exactly what goes where. But your base ingredient is going to go into the topmost dropper. So usually it's nether wart, but again, depending on what potion you're brewing, it might not be nether wart. But your base ingredient, the one that needs to be brewed first, is going to go in your topmost dropper. And then all of your other ingredients will be brewed from the bottom going up. So the bottommost dropper will be the second ingredient right after your base ingredient. So for this example, the nether wart is the base ingredient, and then the rabbit's foot will be the next item added to the potion, and then the fermented spider eye, and then the gunpowder, and then the glowstone. So the topmost item is your base ingredient, but then all the other ones go in order from bottom to top. So simply load your ingredients into the corresponding droppers so that they brew everything in the correct order. I'll explain a little bit more about why the base ingredient needs to be loaded first and then be on the top rather than the bottom in a little bit, but first let's load our water bottles into this double chest on the side right here. And if you wanted to get really creative, you could always add an automated water bottle dispenser attached to this, so that you can just flick a lever, fill up the chest with water bottles, and then let it start brewing its potions. But once everything is loaded and you have your base ingredient in the brewing stand already with your fuel and your water bottles all ready to go, now you just place a button on the side of this block right here next to this torch, and then pressing this button will tell it to start brewing. So if it ever stops brewing because it runs out of an ingredient, or because the output fills up, once you clear out some room, you just press that button again and it will start brewing until it fills up the output again. And you are now totally done. It will now just continue brewing potions until the output is completely full. Now the reason you need to put a base ingredient in there, and why the base ingredient is on the top rather than the bottom, is that is the time that it triggers the next cycle of ingredients to be dispensed into the system. So you have this item sorter type thing right here that can only have one ingredient at a time. Because it's filled up with your trash item. All your other ingredients sit up here. And so once the last ingredient enters the brewing stand, which in this case will be your base ingredient, the hoppers will be empty. And whenever the first slot of this hopper is empty, the redstone signal will drop because the comparator's looking at it, which will then turn on this torch and turn off this repeater. So the torch will lock the hopper, preventing water bottles from going into the brewing stand, and the repeater will unlock this bottom hopper, which will allow the potions to be drained. And so since this triggers when there is still one ingredient in the brewing stand, that means that your topmost ingredient needs to be your base ingredient because it gets left over. And once the potions are being drained from the brewing stand, this comparator will notice that there are potions being drained, which will then trigger that repeater on a delay, which will then activate all of the droppers to send one more ingredient into the line. So once items are back into these hoppers, the comparator will notice that there's more items in there, which will increase the signal strength of the redstone, which will turn back off the torch, which will allow water bottles to be placed in the brewing stand, and will also turn back on that bottom repeater, which will lock the drain hopper so that the water bottles don't get drained from the brewing stand. And that's how this little machine works. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions and I will do my best to try to answer them. Also let me know if you have any requests and I will do my best to get it done. Oh, but really quick before we end this video, let me mention one more time that if it fills up completely and then stops brewing potions, after you remove potions you will need to press the button in order to get it started again. And if you're not a big fan of this design, you can check out my other video where I made a more manual automated potion brewer where you press a button to get 3 potions rather than it making a whole chest full of potions. The other design is also 1 block wide and totally tileable. Also in that video, we have a small tutorial for how to do the automated water bottle collection system. It is super duper easy, basically just a clock with a dispenser full of empty bottles facing some water. I'll be sure to include a link to that video in the description and here on the screen, so if you want to check those out, you totally can. Also, if you liked this video, don't forget to like, favorite, share, and subscribe. It really means a lot, it makes me super happy, and it helps out the channel immensely. It is because of your support that I can continue making these videos, so thank you so much. And if you're one of my subscribers coming back to show your support yet again, you are totally awesome. I love you all. But even if you're not subscribed, I really appreciate you being here. I hope you enjoyed our time together. But that's all we got for this video, so thank you so much for watching. Until next time, I've been your host, OmLedu, hopefully teaching you a redstone trick or two. And reminding you, as always, don't forget to have fun. Bye-bye.